Chapter 5 of The Man Who Lost Himself. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. The Man Who Lost Himself by H. de Vere Stacpoole. Chapter 5. The Point of the Joke. Out in the open air and sunshine he took a deep, satisfying breath. He felt as though he had escaped from a cage full of monkeys. Monkeys in the form of men. Creatures who would servilely obey him as Rochester, but who, scenting the truth, would rend him in pieces. Well, he was clear of them. Once back in the Savoy he would get into his own things, and once in his own things he would strike. If he could not get a lawyer to take his case up against Rochester, he would go to the police. Yes, he would. Rochester had doped him, taken his letters, taken his watch. Jones was not the man to bring false charges. He knew that in taking his belongings, this infernal jester had done so, not for plunder, but for the purpose of making the servants believe that he, Rochester, had been stripped of everything by sharks, and sent home in an old suit of clothes. All the same, he would charge Rochester with the taking of his things. He would teach this practical joker how to behave. To cool himself and collect his thoughts before going to the Savoy, he took a walk in the Green Park. That one word, "Tosh," uttered by the woman, in answer to what he had said, told him more about Rochester than many statements. This man wanted a cold bath. He wanted to be held under the tap till he cried for mercy. Walking, now with the stick under his right arm and his left hand in his trousers pocket, he felt something in the pocket. It was a coin. He took it out. It was a penny, undiscovered evidently and unremoved by the valet. It was also a reminder of his own poverty-stricken condition. His thoughts turned from Rochester and his jokes to his own immediate and tragic position. The whole thing was his own fault. It was quite easy to say that Rochester had led him along and tempted him. He was a full-grown man and should have resisted temptation. He had let strong drink get hold of him. Well, he had paid by the loss of his money, to say nothing of the way his self-respect had been bruised by this jester. Near Buckingham Palace he turned back, walking by the way he had come and leaving the park at the new gate. He crossed the plexus of ways where Northumberland Avenue debouches on Trafalgar Square. It was near 12 o'clock, and the first evening papers were out. A hawker with a bundle of papers under his arm and a yellow poster in front of him like an apron drew his attention. At least the poster did. "Suicide of an American in London," were the words on the poster. Jones, remembering his penny, produced it and bought a paper. The American's suicide did not interest him, but he fancied vaguely that something of Rochester's doings of the night before might have been caught by the press through the police news. He thought it highly probable that Rochester, continuing his mad course, had been jailed. He was rewarded. Right on the first page he saw his own name. He had never seen it before in print, and the sight and the circumstances made his tongue cluck back, as though checked by a string tied to its root. This was the paragraph: "Last night, as the 11:35 Inner Circle train was entering the Temple station, a man was seen to jump from the platform onto the metals. Before the station officials could interfere to save him, the unfortunate man had thrown himself before the incoming engine. Death was instantaneous. From papers in possession of deceased, his identity has been verified as that of Mr. V. A. Jones, an American gentleman of Philadelphia, lately resident at the Savoy Hotel, Strand." Jones stood with the paper in his hand, appalled. Rochester had committed suicide. This was the jest, the black core of it. All last evening, All through that hilarity he had been plotting this. Plotting it perhaps from the first moment of their meeting. Unable to resist the prompting of the extraordinary likeness, this joker, this waster, done to the world, had left life at the end of a last jamboree, and with a burst of laughter, leaving another man in his clothes, nay, almost, one might say, in his body. Joan saw the point of the thing at once. Chapter 5. Recording by Roger Moline.